Yeah, but I always find it important to position yourself in the film,
Yeah.
and it's important. And it come up for me. It worked. It came across. The fact that you placed yourself outside the subject was clear.
Yeah. As in, there was no, like, at no point did I feel I had to pretend to be a part of them, because I wasn't. And uh, throughout, even when the camera is looking at them, there is always this outsider's view on how their life is.
Yeah.
But as in, I didn't have qualms about it because that's how it is. So
It makes no bones about the fact that yes,
yeah, there's that distance.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
It makes no bones about that at all. And I think that's what makes it more effective. And you are dealing with a politically very very sensitive subject: migration, land, ownership of land, land rights, and everything. So, I mean, again, coming back to the fact that this is your first film, what are, in retrospect, what do you think were some of the most some of the biggest challenges in terms of both subject as well as formal issues? Now, when you look at it, and when you watch this film projected and so on, in the public space, what do you think as a first-time filmmaker? What were some of your biggest preoccupations and some of your biggest stumbling blocks, if there were any?
No, there were many. uh, as in, I was throughout, in terms of preoccupations, like I said earlier, I was always, as in, I was always pondering over this whole idea of how to place myself in a certain sense. So, like, am I, how do I say it? I'm blanking out now. Like, I wanted to see it in a way where I'm not interfering as much, but that became a hindrance in a sense, because I was constantly editing and re-editing things, trying to make it seem like I wasn't really interfering and this is how things happen. But then I think the minute you carry a camera and the minute you decide to make a film, write, edit, anything, you are putting yourself in the middle. And I think by the end of the edit, I kind of realized that, and I said, okay, there's a fine balance actually. Like, you can be observant, but yet you need to be aware that you are there. You're not there. So that, and so, which is why I think on the edit table I took a really long time. I think most of the film happened on the edit table, apart from the shoot. And obviously, language proved to be. I can understand Assamese and I can understand Bengali, but I can't understand their dialect of Bengali. So they speak like Mohammed Singh, which is like a Bangladeshi Bengali, which is why when Amjad talks about his Bengali dying and his children not knowing that Bengali, that's what he's kind of referring to. And throughout the film, I didn't want to like speak out and say, okay, so he's the immigrant and so I wanted it to come from the conversations itself, and kind of reveal in little ways, that okay, so he doesn't really belong here. So kind of piece the story together like that, instead of having things that very clearly specify that this man's not from here and he does stuff like that. So.
And what is interesting for me is that your film doesn't really take any overt sides. It presents both the sides and lets us have an experience of the space, of the space, of their lives, of the political situation and everything. So, yeah, and you pretty much leave it to the viewer in that case.
Yeah, I think as in, it was obviously all these kind of points that the film's trying to make, I think, apply to most situations these days. You don't know if people are, which is why, like, when we speak to Shahjahan towards the end and we ask him whether his way he thinks is the best way to go about this. But then at least he has a stand, and at least he's speaking out, and at least he is doing something. So, as in, I obviously didn't want to take sides, but you feel like both sides of the coin hold true, and you can't really take side. So as in unfortunately I had to be the fence sitter in this case, so I could understand what Amjad, where he was coming from and where Shahjahan was coming from. And for me, it was just like, what is this idea of reform and development for communities that eventually will go back to their lives and will eventually, so to kind of bridge that gap, it was, I don't know what I managed to do or didn't do, but yeah.
No, I mean, in response to that, I'll say I don't think you come across as a fence sitter at all. Because it's not fence sitting, it's looking at a complex situation which there are no rights and wrongs. You know, it's a complex set of rights and a complex set of problems over there. And you present them and, as faithfully as you possibly can. And let's say if I watch a current affairs program or a documentary now, we already know, ahead of watching that film, we already know the reality through the internet and through various other media that we have access to. So it becomes one, a reiteration of what we already know and the form in which it is put across. And there are certain things that are emphasized and certain things that you remember. So I think, or maybe there are people who are not really aware with the politics of this region. It becomes an entry point into that situation, and you leave it to them saying, this is what it is, and make what you want of it, and rather with a sense of empathy towards both the sides, instead of saying these guys are completely wrong and these guys are completely right, which is a trap that filmmaking can or any kind of critique can fall into. And I'm glad you don't do that. I'm really glad.